When most people think of Marilyn Monroe, they think of the blonde bombshell. The white dress blowing over a subway vent, singing happy birthday to John F. Kennedy, red lipstick, platinum blonde hair, Hollywood glamour, and American excess. But like many icons, Marilyn Monroe was much more complex than the image capitalism repackaged and gave to us. As we approach 100 years since her birth, it's worth asking what and who has been erased beneath the myth of Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn was originally known as Norma Jean, a woman shaped by the Great Depression, who historian Lois Banner argued developed a populist vision of equality for all classes. She married playwright Arthur Miller during the height of McCarthyism, the anti-communist political hysteria of 1950s America, where suspected leftists, trade unionists, artists and intellectuals were blacklisted, surveyed, and publicly attacked for alleged communist sympathies. Monroe and Miller moved within circles viewed suspiciously by the US government, and Monroe herself was reportedly monitored by the FBI. Monroe supported nuclear disarmament, she sympathized with the civil rights movement, and she openly disliked the FBI director J. Edgar Hoover, the powerful and deeply controversial head of the FBI who oversaw extensive political surveillance campaigns against activists, socialists, and civil rights figures. She reportedly described Hoover as the most dangerous man in America. This political side of Monroe has been largely erased, and maybe that's because it was incompatible with the role Marilyn Monroe needed to play, particularly within post-war America. Monroe wasn't just a celebrity, she was a symbol of the American century itself. As the British Empire declined and the Cold War intensified, Hollywood became one of America's most powerful tools of soft power, exporting glamour, consumerism, and idealized American femininity across the world. Marilyn became one of its most recognizable products. Monroe herself increasingly understood the violence of that system. She once said that she understood the slave system after going through what she called the star system, a comment expressing sympathy with Black Americans and the enduring legacy of slavery, while comparing the exploitative control Hollywood studios exercised over actors to systems of domination and dehumanization. Marilyn Monroe was not entirely organic. Norma Jean was dyed blonde, reshaped and repackaged by Hollywood into something globally consumable. Marilyn was a person transformed into a product. Despite becoming one of the most famous women on earth, Monroe reportedly died with relatively modest assets, living in a small Los Angeles home rather than the vast luxury associated with her image. There's perhaps something revealing in that contradiction. A woman herself remained comparatively ordinary, while the image of Monroe generated extraordinary wealth and cultural capital for the industries built around her. Perhaps that's why Marilyn feels like such a relevant icon today. French theorist Jean Baudrillard wrote about hyperreality, the idea that modern media culture increasingly replaces reality with manufactured images and simulations that become more culturally powerful than the real people or events underneath them. That is exactly what happened with Marilyn Monroe. Today, of course, most people don't know about her politics or probably even her films. They know the image. Modern capitalism continues to profit from that image relentlessly. Monroe remains one of the most commercially reproduced women in history. Her face endlessly recycled across fashion campaigns, merchandise, advertising, social media aesthetics, AI-generated imagery, and celebrity branding. Decades after her death, Marilyn still functions as a highly profitable corporate asset, recognizable, emotionally resonant, and infinitely marketable. The real woman fades further into the background, while the image becomes more valuable than ever. In many ways, Monroe was an early prototype for the media landscape we now inhabit. Long before Instagram influencers, TikTok personalities, or AI-generated avatars, her identity had already been transformed into a reproducible brand detached from political reality and endlessly optimized for consumption. What happened to Marilyn? The flattening of a complex human into an aesthetic and marketable image now happens constantly online. Social media and tech capitalism have accelerated the same process Hollywood once perfected, turning people into content, identity into branding, and human lives into endlessly monetizable imagery shaped by algorithms rather than reality.